On our newscast tonight, the British Parliament rejects a military response to last week's chemical attack in Syria. Despite the setback, the U.S. mulls unilateral action on Syria for its alleged use of chemical weapons against civilians. In the latest development in a sedition scandal surrounding the left-leaning Unified Progressive Party, prosecutors request an arrest warrant for lawmaker Lee Seok-ki on charges of plotting a rebellion against the country. The National Intelligence Service reveals what it says is key evidence. Plus, experts say that small amounts of the radioactive water from Japan could begin flowing into Korea as early as next year, although they say the effects will be minimal. Stay with us for these stories and more on Early Edition at 6. It is 5 a.m. in New York City, 10 a.m. in London, and 6 on a Friday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Kim Hyun-ji.
And I'm Daniel Che. Thank you for joining us. One of the hottest debate topics going on is whether to intervene in Syria.
Well, it looks like UK adamantly says no. British lawmakers have voted down a government attempt to secure authorization for military intervention in Syria.
That's right. British Prime Minister David Cameron said he respects the Parliament's decision and will not order an attack. Undeterred, though, the U.S. is mulling unilateral action against Syria for the Assad regime's alleged use of chemical weapons near Damascus. Our Connie Lee starts us off.
In an unexpected turn of events on Thursday, Prime Minister David Cameron and his coalition government failed to win authorization for military action in Syria by 13 votes.
The ayes to the right, 272. The noes to the left, 285. So the noes have it, the noes have it.
Cameron said he would not override Parliament's decision.
It is very clear tonight that while the House has not passed a motion, it is clear to me that the British Parliament, reflecting the views of the British people, does not want to see British military action. I get that, and the government will act accordingly.
Cameron had been pushing with U.S. President Barack Obama for military action on Syria to punish the Assad regime for allegedly launching a chemical weapons attack last week that killed hundreds of civilians near Damascus. In the U.S., national security officials admitted on Thursday that they have no, quote, smoking gun that proves Assad personally ordered the chemical attacks. Despite this, Obama's aides say the president is ready to move ahead with a limited military strike against Syria without British support or an endorsement from the United Nations Security Council. President Obama still hasn't made a final decision on a matter, but it could come once UN officials investigating the chemical attack leave Syria on Saturday. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Prosecutors are seeking an arrest warrant for lawmaker Lee Seok-ki of the far-left Unified Progressive Party for conspiring to subvert the government. The National Intelligence Service has submitted a transcript of a clandestine meeting between Lee and something called the Revolutionary Organization as evidence. Our Oh Jin-ju has the latest.
The National Intelligence Service has uncovered what could be one of the country's most serious political crimes in modern history. Prosecutors are seeking an arrest warrant for Lee Seok-ki of the minor opposition Unified Progressive Party and 3 other party members on charges of plotting a rebellion and violating the national security law. Lee denies the charges. Since parliamentary approval is required to arrest a lawmaker during a National Assembly session, the matter will likely be put on a vote as early as next week when the Assembly's regular session opens on Monday. The left-leaning lawmaker has been accused of conspiring with members of a secret organization called the Revolutionary Organization, or RO, in May to blow up major infrastructure in the nation, such as communication centers and oil storage tanks, police stations, and armories. A tape recording obtained by the spy agency reportedly shows Lee and RO members discussing detailed ways to sabotage the South Korean government and U.S. troops in the event of an inter-Korean war. According to a transcript of the recording, Lee also urged the organization's members to prepare a political and military war to topple the South Korean government, adding that it would be an honor to take a leading role in the revolution for reunification. A discussion about war preparation follows Lee's comments. One of the arrested party officials says they had access to information on the internet about how to make homemade bombs and even guns to arm themselves. In response to the revelations, the UPP held a press conference Friday morning and said the transcript was completely fabricated and distorted. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
Military chiefs from 18 countries in the Asia-Pacific region wrapped up their second ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting in Brunei on Thursday. The participating members agreed on the need for a nuclear-free Korea Peninsula, urging North Korea to abide by its international obligations. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Han Da-eun reports on the outcome of the meeting.
North Korea's missile and nuclear threats were one of the key agenda items at the two-day ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus in Brunei. Recognizing the security threats Pyongyang poses the region, defense ministers from South Korea, the U.S., China, Japan, and 14 other nations in the Asia-Pacific region issued a joint declaration that called for the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The declaration also indirectly urged North Korea to fully comply with UN restrictions, but the words North Korea were not stated. Military chiefs of several nations, including South Korea, the U.S., and Russia, expressed grave concerns over North Korea's nuclear threats through their keynote speech. South Korean Defense Minister Kim Kwan-jin reiterated the security risks Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs pose to the world and urged ASEAN member nations to join hands in urging the North to abide by its international obligations.
There was international consensus on the need to denuclearize North Korea, and China has also agreed.
South Korea and China, meanwhile, agreed to further expand military cooperation. On the sidelines of the meeting, Minister Kim and his Chinese counterpart Chang Wan-chuan reconfirmed the importance of bilateral military exchanges, which include establishing a military hotline between the two ministers. Vowing to participate in various military events in their respective countries, Chang also agreed to visit Seoul next year. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
Staying on the subject of national defense, South Korea is likely to choose Boeing's F-15 Silent Eagle as its next fighter jet. Sadly, the main reason behind the decision, it's the only jet that comes within Seoul's budget of some $7.4 billion. The Defense Acquisition Program Administration says it cannot go ahead with its plan to purchase 60 jets if the price exceeds the budget, effectively weeding out Lockheed Martin's F-35 and EADS Eurofighter. The procurement agency has come under fire for its selection process, with critics saying it's putting too much emphasis on price instead of the jet's combat capabilities.
North Korea's Minister of the People's Armed Forces, Chang Jong-nam, was recently promoted to general. In a photo released Wednesday by the North's official Korean Central News Agency, Chang is seen wearing a 4-star insignia, indicating the rank of general. North Korea watchers speculate that Pyongyang is in the midst of a military reorganization that involves replacing older officials with younger loyalists. The move comes after the North's promotion of Lee Seok-ki, the Army's General Staff's Chief of Operations, to general. Despite the government's forecast, the economy will pick up speed in the latter half of the year. New data shows the economic recovery is still very wobbly, with recruitment feared hovering at a level not seen since the height of the global financial crisis in 2009. Our Yurian explains.
Slumping industrial output and a weak job market are casting a long shadow over the economy. New numbers from Statistics Korea show that mining and manufacturing dropped by 0.1% in July, reversing from a 0.6% gain in June. The report attributed the fall to the faltering manufacturing industry. Although production for semiconductors and foodstuff rose by over 7% and 2% respectively, output for cars, machinery, and oil products all fell in July from a month earlier. Also, it seems the country is some time away from seeing improvement in the job market. A survey by job portal website Incruit showed that of the country's 777 major companies contacted, only 36% said that they are planning to recruit new employees in the second half of the year. That's close to the 35% seen back in the second half of 2009, when the country was suffering from the global financial crisis. Smaller companies are struggling more than the nation's major conglomerates. About half of the conglomerates said they will recruit in the second half of the year, while only 38% of well-established mid-sized companies and 33% of SMEs said they have recruitment plans. This is expected to lead to unbalanced recruitment among these companies, with the conglomerates expected to take up over 60% of the newly employed.
The recovery is being delayed because of the prolonged economic slump. There's uncertainty in corporate management. That's why the job market is struggling.
With the grim job prospects and the manufacturing industry remaining in the doldrums, the Korean economy still has a number of challenges ahead. Yurian, Arirang News.
Korea has launched a new travel alert system to inform Koreans of emergency situations in foreign countries, including abrupt political unrest, natural disasters, and outbreaks of contagious diseases. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Friday that a new two-stage alert system will replace the current four-stage system, and that warnings will be issued depending on the level of risk in a given region. Travelers applying to travel to a region or country with a level 1 warning will be advised not to go, and those who are already there will be advised to look out for their safety and security. A region or country with a high level of risk will be given a level 2 warning, and travelers there are advised to leave, and a travel ban will be issued for prospective travelers. The warnings will last for a week but could continue depending on the severity of the situation. And in cultural news, the Korean National Ballet is now staging its own rendition of Don Quixote. The ballet company has updated some of the original 144-year-old choreography to give it a more modern flair. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won tells us more.
The Korean National Ballet is presenting a new production of the classical comic ballet Don Quixote through this Saturday. This lighthearted and exuberant ballet is based on Cervantes' epic masterpiece. But in this version of the classic Spanish novel, the beloved title characters, the delusional knight Don Quixote and his loyal companion Sancho Panza, are just playing supporting roles, and it's a love story between the young lovers Kitri and her suitor Basilio that takes center stage. Audiences can enjoy lavish Spanish dances in the first act and classical ballet in the second act during the scene of Don Quixote's dream. The final act, when the couple gets married, features the majestic grand pas de deux that's often staged at ballet galas. Most major ballet companies in the world have their own productions of Don Quixote, and the Korean National Ballet is no exception. This time, it's updated the original Marius Petipa choreography to reflect the fast-paced environment of modern Korea.
I think this new production is more loyal to the original ballet score, which splits one movement into multiple movements to better express the true color of the music.
This ballet shows off the lightest and most cheerful classical ballet dance moves out of numerous classical ballet pieces.
The ballet continues until this Saturday at the Seoul Arts Center in southern Seoul. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Most of the radioactive water from the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan is expected to follow a current and spread into the Pacific Ocean.
Experts say that small amounts of the radioactive water could begin flowing into Korea as early as next year, but they add that the effects will be minimal. Our Kim Min-ji tells us more.
The Crucio is a north-flowing ocean current on the western side of the North Pacific Ocean, and its strongest impact is on Korea and Japan. It flows from the Philippines and into the Korea Strait and northeastward past Japan. The simulation created by a team of Korean and Chinese researchers shows the likely flow of radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan as carried by the crucial current.
The radioactive water will merge with the strong currents of the Kuroshio and flow east. It could reach U.S. and Canadian waters in 4 to 5 years.
That's because the current eventually begins to flow towards the western waters of North America. These waters then merge with the North Equatorial Current, which later becomes the Crucio. The total process takes about 10 years to complete. This means that radioactive water from the Fukushima plant could begin flowing into Korean waters when the cycle is complete in 10 years. Experts, however, say the contaminated water could begin leaking into Korea's southern seas and the East Sea as early as next year. According to researchers, small amounts of radioactive water are likely to slip from the outer parts of the Crucio to merge into other currents that flow towards Korea. The amount, however, is minuscule at approximately 0.01 becquerels per unit area, which is about 1/200th of the world's average.
A small amount of radioactive water will flow into the Yellow and East Seas. However, the effects will be minimal.
The experts say that even if fish are exposed to the affected waters, the small amount of radioactive water will still make fish safe to consume.
Even if we consume fish that's been exposed to radioactive water, the effect will be extremely minute. The amount is nothing to worry about.
However, others have raised concerns, saying that continuous inspections and monitoring are required, as the exact amount of radioactive water that is leaked into the ocean is unclear. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
So, although experts point out the effects will be minimal and fish products will be safe to consume, most Koreans aren't convinced.
Well, some fear Japan waited too long to realize they need help containing the Fukushima leakage. And for an in-depth discussion on this issue, we are now joined by Seo Kyun-yeol, Professor of Nuclear Engineering at Seoul National University. Hello, Professor Seo. Thank you for joining us.
So, Professor, was Japan too late in turning for help? And I feel like the international community has been rather quiet about this issue as well. Why is that?
It's not quite a right statement because the international community has been really working hard to get their hands on to the business. But the Japanese government as well as TEPCO, Tokyo Electric Power, simply turned their back and walked away. And now they are coming back, but a little too late. But again, it's never too late. So it's about time for us to get together and then get something out of their ideas.
So better late than never is what you're
saying.
We turn our back on it for too long, praying and hoping for the best, hoping for it to take care of itself.
Fingers crossed.
Right, but so I guess a lot of people are wondering at the moment, Japan, I mean, they're one of the most technologically advanced or tech-savvy countries in the world. They should have the technology to be able to fix the problem. So what is going on? Is Japan lacking in that department, or?
Actually, they've come up with some kind of an idea. I call this permafrost, which is relating to really freezing the soil. But to me, it sounds more like a science fiction because they have to be doing this for at least 50 years and as long as 10,000 years. So I think they were probably going to give this up one of these months. So what's the idea? Maybe bypassing the groundwater and something else. But I think they just simply ran out of ideas.
So they have the technology, they have the manpower, they have the ideas, man. Unfortunately, not the right one, not the most effective one.
Exactly.
And apparently the most amazing sci-fi solution they have will take them 50 years.
Exactly. So they did have the idea, but they really failed in their management system. So that didn't really work the way it was supposed to.
Right. So just this week, TEPCO finally called for foreign expertise. So what is the first thing that needs to be done?
Actually, I think they have to be really opening up their minds because if it comes to nuclear disaster, it's an international one. It never was a national one because nuclear disaster is truly going over and beyond and above the borders. Okay? Think about the atmosphere, hydrosphere, oceans, but they realized this a little too late. Probably they were the last one on the planet to realize this is situation. So they didn't really open this up. It's time to really open this up and then go from there.
Well, like you've mentioned, it's not technology, but rather people and a management issue that led to this catastrophic result.
Exactly.
So apparently the scientists, they need to talk to decision makers, and apparently it'll take them a while to see eye to eye. What's the best way for them to talk to those without a scientific background, to convince them and to work together to solve this crisis?
It's a tough question because the politicians do not really tend to listen to those engineers and scientists because they're coming from the political background. So the best bet is probably they are needing to think about their bidding for probably 2020 Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo. So it's about time. I believe they're in a position to be listening to their engineers in and out. Okay, so I believe they're getting ready to take in others' opinions at the same time.
So you talked about, this soil freezing technique that Japan is kind of trying to do, but then you said it's not really the cutting edge technology that there is. What is the solution then?
The solution, again, concrete, okay? Just think about Chernobyl. They just poured the concrete all over, okay? Sarcophagus. That's the solution, and they should have done it a couple of years ago. They actually lost their opportunity because by now the soils are all too much contaminated. Nobody can have an access to the site. So essentially, plan B is going to be bypassing this groundwater. Again, almost like a sci-fi story, but something better than nothing. Okay, so there are a couple of ways around. Actually, Russians have some experience in that regard, and the United States and us, including the South Korean engineers, have some ideas. So put them all together, then we may be able to come up with some very tangible and palpable, practical idea.
Right, going all the way back to the 80s, we had a textbook case study back then, but we still failed to step up this time.
Exactly.
Well, let's focus on something that's really close and dear to the consumers in Korea. Fish. Will it be safe for us to consume in a year's time? We need a very quick response because we're running out of time.
So far, so good. But actually, you see, if the radiation or radiation levels go into the food chain, then everybody's susceptible, including our dinner table. So nobody's secure from that. But so far, it looks like I've been to Noryangjin fishery a couple of days ago. So far, so good. But now is the time for the government, Korean government, to be really looking into this problem seriously from the citizen's point of view, not government point of view. Then we'll be safe enough.
See.
It's time for us to act, definitely.
Exactly. Time for action.
Well, it's time for us to let you go, unfortunately, but we would love to have you back sometime soon to discuss the matter further. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor So. We look forward to it as well.
Sure. Bye now.
Thank you.
It's time for weather. That means we turn to our Hannah Kim. Now, Hannah, I know the weather is great, but unfortunately, I need that because this is our last day together, right, Hannah?
Right, I am looking forward to this weekend, but this light breeze is really making it feel like fall.
Right, but it's still hot in the afternoon, so I don't think it's too late to take a short weekend trip.
That's right, Yeonji, but our UV index readings are still very high. You can definitely tell by all the sunshine in the afternoon. But if you do want to take a weekend vacation, I would suggest going to a park with a lot of trees. Shaded areas bring temperatures down by 4 to 6 degrees, and it's always nice to see green leaves before they fall in the autumn. Now, tomorrow we'll have mostly cloudy skies, although you may see lingering showers on Jeju Island and in the southern provinces. Taking a closer look at the forecast, remember that we have big gaps between our temperature highs highs and lows. Seoul will start off the morning at 20 and reach 29 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, cities in the south like Daegu and Busan will peak at 30 and 29 degrees respectively. Jeju Island may have more rain due to the indirect effects of Typhoon Kongray. Daejeon will hit 28 while Dokdo and Mount Kumgang remain a little cooler in the mid-20s. Well, that's all I have for you this hour. I did say this in our previous newscast, but this is my last weather forecast for 6 p.m. news. And I just want to thank everyone who supported me for a year and a half. And I just want to thank our viewers who have been loyal to Arirang News and Arirang Weather. This has been Hannah Kim, and I'll see you back with another project hopefully soon. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and back to you guys.
Thank you for that, Hannah, and good job so far. And we know we'll see you on TV soon. Thank you again.
Definitely.
And our viewers, thank you for watching. This has been Daniel Chen.
And I'm Kim Hyun-ji. Hope you have a wonderful and restful weekend. Stay tuned to Arirang for more news coming up.